This is a reading of The Thin Red Line, written by me, Flint and Steel Survival, to be entered into the contest by Luke at DLC Custom Knives. Please go check him out if you'd like to see some custom knife builds, as well as possibly purchase your own. Tell him I sent you. Thanks. The Thin Red Line, read and written by Flint and Steel Survival. Part 1. I hear the resounding sound of tumblers turning as intricate high-security bolt work falls into place. I lift my head from my work auditing the day's deposits in the back corner of our cash vault, behind a row of safety deposit boxes as the light clicks off. Very funny, I think to myself. Our branch manager Tricia likes to play jokes, and it is just like her to take it too far. And just when I was about to finally decide on which flavor of TV dinner I was going to have alone tonight as I watched The Bachelorette with my only companion, Mr. Boots, my aging tabby cat, I click the side button on my phone and a dim light jumps to life. I stand and make my way slowly to the door. As I approach the door, the heel of my stiletto catches the handle of a cash bag carelessly laid across the floor, and I tumble forcefully, striking my head against the vault door. Everything fades to black. Part 2. I awaken with a jolt and flash of pain. The room is dark, and for a few moments I forget where I am. I feel a sticky substance on my face, sticking my right eye shut. I rub away the substance covering my eye before realizing that what I am touching is my own blood. I try to sit up and the pain intensifies. I move my head slowly to the left and right before spotting the slight outline of a phone a few feet away from my left hand in the dark. It must have slid out of my hand as I was on my way down. I get up on my knees and crawl towards it, thankful that my limbs still work. Apart from the throbs of pain and slight hint of vertigo, everything seems to be in working order. As I reach the phone and turn it over, I look down at the screen. Once again, I toggle the lock button, and as the screen comes to life, it lights up like a beacon of hope. Thank goodness nothing happened to it. I still owe 12 payments on this thing. I check the clock and see it reads 7:15 p.m. The bank has been closed for an hour and 45 minutes. They really must have not known I was here. I move my eyes up to the top corner and see no bars, and no Wi-Fi signal. These old vaults are in the equivalent of a Faraday cage. Sometimes you will get the faint hint of a signal with the door open, but as soon as it shuts, it closes you off to the digital world. Fear floods over me and I begin breathing faster. Locked in a vault. The vault will be time locked until tomorrow morning at 8. Tricia will be here at 8:30 to unlock the door and get me out. After a few moments, the situation sinks in and I begin to accept my fate. Why do terrible things always happen to the good guys? I think as I try to remember the events of the day. 3 years ago, I approached the president of the bank and brought up the idea to raise money for sick kids to get toys at Christmas, and she was thrilled. When I volunteered to take care of everything, you would have thought you offered to give her a free ticket to Hawaii, and she quickly agreed and gave me whatever support I needed. Today was the incredibly important day. I got to take the donations from members and my coworkers to the Children's Hospital Toy Drive. This year we banked $2,240 and the bank matched $1,000. Pretty good take if I do say so myself. I came into the vault this morning, counted the collection, changed out all the donations for crisp $20 bills, and ran out the door to catch a ride with the first cab I could hail. I was feeling so good about everything I even stopped for a well-deserved lunch, complete with a glass of wine or 3, before hopping in a taxi to get back to the bank. It was that lunch that had me scrambling before closing time to get my regular counts complete. They really were right when they said, no good deed goes unpunished. First order of business is to assess the damage to my head. I unlock my phone, open up my camera app, and turn it to selfie mode. I hold the phone up until I can find the best angle to see the wound. Right above my right eyebrow, there's a 2-inch long or more gash. It appears most of the blood has stopped running, only the center of the wound still has a few dots of crimson rising through the forming scab. Doesn't look too bad, but blood has always made me woozy. I know I will survive, but the thought doesn't stop my lunch from rising and exiting my stomach, landing on the floor next to me. I crawl back towards the door and prop my back against it, my head protesting the whole time. Next thing on the list of level of importance, I kick off my high heels and undo the top button of my denim blouse. No reason to be uncomfortable after all, I say aloud and focus on my deep breathing. It sounds odd to hear my voice echo in the metal shell. I take a peek back at my phone and see the battery level is sitting at 46%. If I use it sparingly, it should last me until I'm released from this prison. I click the lock button again, watching the lights snap off and plunge me back into darkness. Now is the moment when I wish I had paid more attention in orientation. Did they mention anything about being locked in a vault? I thought to myself. As I continued thinking about it, I felt myself drift off to sleep. Part 3. I snap awake again, gripping my phone tightly, and turn it on. The clock flashes 9:58 p.m. Wow, that knock to the head must have really done a number on me. Suddenly I realize there is a new sound that was not there before, a faint scratching on the other side of the vault door. Or was it? I spin around and place my ear to the door. Sure enough, the scratching continues. Hope washes over me. I began to scream, "Help! I'm trapped in here! Call the police!" With each syllable, my head threatens to explode. Then I listen again. The scratching has stopped, and the world around me returns to silence, but for the slight echo reverberating my desperation back at me. Had I imagined it? Is this room playing tricks on me? I slide back down into my sitting position while I think of my next move. There has to be something in here that can help me out, I say. I slowly get back to my knees and attempt to stand. My knees threaten to give out on me as they shake, but after a few moments they straighten out and hold steady. I click the power button on my phone in my hand, and this time open it up to the main screen and toggle on my flashlight. I cannot afford to have another run-in with a tripping hazard. Almost blinding flash emerges, and then a steady beam lights the path towards the back of the vault. I turn right and begin scanning the walls and floor down the row of safety deposit boxes. An empty trash can and a padded chair and an empty table are all in the corner has to offer. I spin around and head back towards the door, where I stop and take a look at the time locks. We don't have the turning key in the vault any longer ever since the holding clip broke off, but perhaps if I found something else of similar size I could push the release anyway and remove one barrier of my escape. I noticed this thought in the back of my mind before turning around and proceeding back towards the workstation. As I rounded the corner, I see a familiar sight of our check printer, bill counter, banding machine, coin sorter, and my clipboard with half the day's deposits meticulously written down on top of the long counter. My chair had been shoved back as I stood up from my workstation in a panic earlier and remained there as if frozen in time. I began searching the cupboards and found very little in the way of help. Stationery, spare rubber bands, a calculator, but nothing that will immediately help my situation. I pick up the pen I was using in hopes that some part of it would help me disengage the time lock movement. Thoroughly satisfied that I have searched the low areas of this space, I turn my attention upwards. I raise my arm higher and cast the beam around at eye level. There are a few shelves here full of empty ATM cash cassettes, old computer parts, various stamps, but nothing that seems useful until I see a steel case of our alarm panel enclosure mounted to the wall in the center of the room. Oh my God, I think. If I can get that open, it will trigger the tamper switch, instantly calling the police. I excitedly try to pull it open and see the gleam of the lock. Oh, right, of course they would be locked. I feel around the shelves surrounding the enclosure and on top of it, but do not find a poorly hidden key as I hoped. I checked the four sides of the box, and no wires were coming out of the box either that could be messed with. This is going to be a problem. I pull with all my might at the box in an effort to break the lock or remove the entire case from the wall, but it does not budge. The more effort I put out, the more the clanging in my head erupts until I am forced to quit before collapsing. I step back and slump into my chair. As soon as I sit down, I once again hear the sound of faint scratching at the door, but as I try to rise to go toward the sound, it gets louder. I freeze in place, and the sound increases slowly but surely, and with it my vision begins to fade as the pounding in my head intensifies. The scratching is turned into the sound of metal being torn apart by a large saw. As I clasp my hands over my ears tightly in an effort to hold back the noise to no avail, tears begin to fall down my face as I repeat over and over in my head to please make it stop. I slump down to the floor, continuing my pathetic internal mantra for what seems like an eternity. When I am absolutely sure I cannot stand another moment of this pain, it suddenly comes to an end. The last thing I see is my face nearing the ugly carpeting again before the sweet release of blackness. Part 4. I breathe in deeply, but my eyes struggle to open. They do a slight flutter, and I can feel the dampness of blood on my head again. I think back to what just happened and remember falling, and it makes sense now why I can smell old carpet. I see my phone sitting near my outstretched hand. Wait a minute, I think to myself. How am I able to see in the pitch black? As my eyes better focus, I realize there is a faint light coming from the walkway between the two sides of the vault. I reach out and grab my phone, checking the time once again before slowly sitting up. This time is 11:58 p.m. I struggle to my knees and then back on my wobbly feet. I stand for a few moments to collect myself before rounding the backside of the safety deposit boxes. Now things begin to make a little more sense. As I look to the vault door, I see an incredibly bright, thin red line of pure light reaching out in every direction coming from underneath the door of the vault. I get an uneasy feeling, but I am petrified. We don't have red lights anywhere in the branch, I think. Our colors are blue and gold. Who would have had a red light? Then a wave of relief comes over me. Maybe this is the police or someone trying to rescue me. I walk cautiously over to the door, listening for any signs that someone was out there trying to free me, but I heard no such noises. I attempt to scream for help again, but my throat catches, and all that comes out is a depressing squeak. I reach the door and decide my best course of action would be to pound on it until my voice returns, to make sure they know for a fact that I am in here. I cock my fist back over my shoulder and let it fly, and as it makes contact with the door, a flash of pain runs through my hand, and I instantly smell burned flesh. I look down at my fist and realize that where it made contact with the door is bubbled and burnt, incredibly badly. The door is burning hot. I recoil in disbelief and reel back until I fall on the floor. I raise my phone up again just in time to watch the clock flick to 12 a.m. I look back at the door and now see two black strips in the thin red line under the door before I hear the locking mechanism release. The door slowly swings open, revealing the most terrifying thing I've ever seen. Filling the entire doorway was a large figure in all black wearing a hooded cloak. Behind him is a sea of fire and sheer cliffs miles long. I start to pitch myself backwards, doing whatever I can to make some distance between myself and this thing. As I do that, it takes a step inside and flicks back its hood. I instantly freeze in pure horror. It's a man face that is revealed, but no man like you've ever seen before. The entirety of the surface is covered in bubbling burns, and the eye sockets are empty. There are two sharp gleaming horns protruding from its forehead, and its mouth is open in what looks like a permanent howl. I begin to try to say something, but my voice is still nowhere to be found. The figure steps slowly closer, and with each step his skin glows more white hot. He reaches me as he stretches out a gloved hand. I have no idea what comes over me, but it feels like I am no longer in control. It is as if I am a passenger in a car watching our vehicle be driven into oncoming traffic, as I watch my left hand reach out and take it. He gently helps me and leads me towards the door. As I get closer, I can feel the heat washing over me. I can see now over the lip of the door, and I'm looking into a lake of fire below and realize this door lets out on the side of one of the same sheer cliffs I see in the distance. I turn to my new companion and look into his empty eyes and then back towards the landscape in front of me. "Why am I here?" I manage to croak as we stand together looking across the chasm ahead. "Greed, Abby," he hisses before reaching his free hand into my bra between my breasts and pulling out a wad of new crisp $20 bills. The sum total of all the money raised for the Children's Hospital toy drive, minus one extravagant lunch and 3 glasses of wine. Same as the year before and the year before that. For that you have been judged in sin, daughter of mankind, and sentenced to a life of damnation to be served immediately. No sooner had the last syllable left his mouth did he take me by the waist and launch us out of the safe door. As we tumbled end over end, my life didn't flash in front of my eyes, but instead, the faces of those who I wronged did, and with each face came the feeling of a knife through my heart. And as we neared the fire below, I wished it would just hurry up and take me. I snap awake again, gripping my phone tightly and turn it on. The clock flashes 9:58 p.m. Wow, that knock to the head must have really done a number on me. Suddenly I realize there's a new sound that was not there before, a faint scratching on the other side of the vault door. Or was it? Office of the Medical Examiner of Hudson City. Name of decedent, Pengrove, Abby Elizabeth. Body identified, Pengrove, Edgar. Age, 38. Race, Caucasian. Sex, female. Length, 67 inches. Weight, 173 pounds. Eyes, brown. Hair, blonde. Beard, not applicable. Blood type and alcohol content, O positive, 0.06% BAC. Rigor mortis, fingers and toes, 3rd degree. Liver mortis, none observable. Non-fatal wounds distinguishing features, tattoos, broken heart on medial lower back, series of 3 butterflies on top of right foot, scars, none. Other features, breast implant from 2016. Note, CSI found 1 dead cell phone with a melted battery. Presumed cause was overheating due to running the flashlight. All device storage corrupted. Device damage beyond repair. Also, $3,180 in 20s was tucked in the subject's brassiere. Pathological description and diagnosis. Time of death, 9:58 p.m. Body was recovered from a bank vault with a large laceration on the front right temple. Extreme blood loss was found to be a contributing factor in delirium, leading to the air recirculator not being turned on, using the pull cord above the vault to pump in emergency oxygen. Deceased had signed the training log on safe operation of such equipment during orientation. The key cause of death was all the oxygen running out of the vault that the deceased was trapped inside. This death was accidental in nature, and no signs of foul play or underlying health issues would lead to this outcome. Probable cause of death, asphyxiation with comorbidity head trauma. Name of pathologist, Brent Johnson. Signed. Date and time of autopsy, 12/24/2017. Bay 3, file number 0065895666. Part 5. On a cold fall evening in 2018, Tricia Stevens is behind the wheel of her Cadillac Escalade, purchased with her newly acquired salary from a timely promotion to vice president of the bank she has worked for since she was a wide-eyed 18-year-old with dreams of making a difference in this world. The years haven't treated her especially kindly, and staring down the fact that she turns 45 tomorrow hasn't had her in the best headspace. Closing time at the bar came way too fast this evening. With it being ladies' night and the night she was celebrating her upcoming birthday with the girls, she tied on a few too many, but no one in her group of gal pals wanted to be the one to tell her she shouldn't drive. So off she went on the 1.5-mile commute from the bar to her bed. Tricia came up on a red light, but she was too busy jamming out to Good Vibrations by the Beach Boys on the radio to notice, so she proceeded right through it. To her dismay, as she heard the horn of the 18-wheeler crossing with the green light on the busy highway, it was too late. Part 6. Tricia startled awake from her nightmare by her radio alarm clock and rolled over, relieved to see the sun shining through the window of her bedroom. She cannot recall having heard this song for years, or had she? She looked down at the clock and saw it was 7:05 a.m. Sunday morning tradition dictates she must get out of bed to hurriedly prepare breakfast for her loving husband and 4 kids. She descends the stairs, whistling the tune of Mamma Mia by ABBA, poorly, and thinking about her roses as she peeks at them through the window. It is shaping up to be a great day, as it often is for Tricia, since the day she set things right. Since the day her husband, Lyle, called her from the restaurant he works at as a chef to tell her that her employee Abby was there drinking and flashing around a stack of cash. Tricia had locked up the vault every night for a decade. Who could possibly blame her for getting a little complacent when checking inside the vault before doing so? Freak accident was all it was, and a small civil suit won by the bank to recover $6,000 or so of charitable donations from the estate of a thief. Tricia's mind was completely at ease over the ordeal, and unless drunk, it wouldn't even cross her mind. When drunk, she had been heard on occasion at the local dive bar on ladies' night telling anyone who would listen, that bitch had it coming. Tricia sets a large plate of pancakes in the center of the table and tucks in to eat. She peeks at her phone to see if she has received any birthday wishes from family and friends, but to her surprise, there were none. What she did notice, though, was that the time on her cell phone was reporting as 11:59 p.m. Damn thing's on the fritz again. She will have to take it back to the store she bought it from at the mall and get them to look at it. Just as she is finishing that thought, she hears sizzling from all around her. She looks around at the table, puzzled, as her family starts to bubble up and inflate like a balloon right before her eyes. Skin ripping and blood oozing to make room for the new expansion. Her sweet husband bursts first, covering her and the children in a fine pink mist of blood and brains. Then her children begin to bubble and explode just like their father, starting with her oldest daughter and ending with her youngest son. It is now that she realizes she's been screaming this whole time. Suddenly she hears a knock at the door. In almost a duty-bound march, Tricia wipes the viscera and fresh tears from her eyes and approaches the door. This is her front door, all right, but there's an odd red light eking out from beneath that she has never seen before, thin and bright red. As she approaches, there is a heat coming from it, as if the sun were on the other side, waiting to melt her as well. She reaches out her hand towards the doorknob just in time for it to come crashing inward, sending her tumbling. She tries to catch herself, but both wrists give out under her weight and snap with a sickening crunch. Her nose is also broken from the contact of the door, and the handle caught her square in the left hip, shooting lightning through her whole leg. She turns to the door, frozen in fear. Filling the entire doorway was a large figure in all black, wearing a hooded cloak. Behind him is a sea of fire and sheer cliffs miles long. It takes a step inside and flicks back its hood. Tricia shrieks an ear-piercing scream. It is a man's face that is revealed, but no man like you've ever seen before. The entirety of the surface is covered in bubbling burns and eye sockets are empty. There are two sharp, gleaming horns protruding from its forehead, and its mouth is open in what looks like a permanent howl. Tricia tries to get up and crumples back down. The man's skin glows more white-hot as he steps through the door towards her. He reaches out a gloved hand to Tricia. Her hand stretches out, and as he lifts her, he cradles her to his chest like an infant, and walks towards the open door from whence he came. As she gets closer to the opening, she can feel the heat washing over her. The man stops so that she can look over the landscape of her fate. She cannot take her eyes off the surely 1,000-foot drop she is being held over. "Why are you doing this?" Tricia manages to croak as her feet dangle over the abyss below. "Wrath, Tricia," he hisses. He reaches into his cloak and removes a photograph of a 38-year-old woman that Tricia once knew very well. "For that you have been judged in sin, daughter of mankind, and sentenced to a life of damnation to be served immediately." No sooner had the last syllable left his mouth did he release his hold of Tricia, beginning her free fall towards the lake of fire. As she tumbled end over end, she saw faces of those she had wronged in this life, and felt the suffering of losing her family all over again. And as she heard the fire below, she just wanted to be with them again. Tricia startled awake from her nightmare by her radio alarm clock and rolled over relieved to see the sun shining through the window of her bedroom. She cannot recall having heard this song for years, or had she. She looked down at the clock and saw it was 7:05 a.m. Office of the Medical Examiner of Hudson City. Name of decedent, Stevens, Tricia Beatriz. Body identified by Stevens, Lyle Alden. Age 45. Race, Hispanic. Sex, female. Length, 61 inches. Weight, 205 pounds. Eyes, hazel. Hair, brunette. Beard, not applicable. Blood type, A negative. 0.11 blood alcohol content at time of accident. Rigor mortis, none. Liver mortis, posterior plain, dark blue and black. Non-fatal wounds. Broken wrists, nose, and left hip from impact. Pathological description and diagnosis. Time of death, 7:05 a.m. After a lengthy stay in the hospital due to a crash caused by driving while under the influence, and no chance of recovery due to brain death, the family has decided to remove life-saving equipment. This decision was deemed justified by the hospital, and the patient succumbed to her ailments. Probable cause of death, internal bleeding in all major organs as well as brain death. Name of pathologist, Sandra Hauk. Signed, 10/21/2018. Location of autopsy, Bay 2. File number 00666895565.